Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
It's not just viewers. Actually,
Oh my gosh, we need a name.
someone recently said, guys, that every time on our Instagram we type INJY, they just see it as a Myers-Briggs personality combo, which I do now see, and I
Yeah.
can't unsee.
INJY. Are you an INJY? Because we are.
We are all INJY on the It's Not Just You Briggs test.
Yeah, baby. Just want to make a quick announcement to the world on the podcast.
Podcast news.
That I have made my grand return to Zumba.
Oh, nice.
I didn't say in the first place ever on this podcast that I've started going to Zumba.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know.
So that first. And I'd had a little bit of a break. And now I'm back, baby.
Let's go.
Honestly, guys, it is invigorating. That is the only word I can use. Okay, Rach, and Rach, you need to come.
I really want to go.
So I'm just going to put it out there. I don't like running, and I feel like there's a massive running craze, trend, hype at the moment. And I've just I'm not getting on it. I'm not.
You're not a runner.
But put me in a Zumba class on a Tuesday night, 7:10 to 8, and I am thriving.
Boogieing.
Firstly, I would just say it's empowering. You're seeing women of all different ages, stages, body types, ethnicities come together
To dance.
to dance.
I mean, it is your dream.
And you could walk in there feeling down in the dumps and you would come out feeling like
That's true.
a queen. I've never left that class thinking, I've come out thinking, I'm alive.
Have you ever been doing like the thing is, you are a good dancer. That is also a caveat. I can imagine myself trying to do some of the moves and potentially,
But there's,
it's
like
just
I
not
said,
coming naturally.
there's
maybe.
people in there of all abilities.
Yeah, true.
There's 60-year-old women shaking their hips.
Are you sweating at the end?
Let me tell you, the whole room is steamed up to the point where you can't even look in the mirrors. You can't even see yourself because everyone's sweating that much.
And how long is the class?
Like 40 minutes.
That's good. Heart rate up for 40
Heart rate is up. So one of them that we do is candy, like dun dun dun.
Yeah.
It's candy on steroids. Like literally you're doing the candy dance, but it's like high knee version, and you're doing it to wicked, jungle is massive, and it's like so fast. And like
I really want to.
and then the woman just goes, like, she'll just say like, how are we feeling tonight, ladies? And it'll be like, Row! Everyone's just screaming.
Sorry, headphone users.
Seen a little peek in the audio there, but everyone's just screaming, woo! Like halfway through the song, you could just start a woo and everyone would just join in.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Just go, woo! And
Do you do
everyone's,
that?
"Yeah!"
Have you done that?
I think I need to start doing it more.
Come on, you got to start the woo.
But there's some apps, and also once you've been like a few times, it's like I know the routines now. So it's like the music starts. I don't even need the instructor. Just look at you in that dress, girl, you dangerous like a gun.
Is it gun fingers like that?
Yeah.
Come on. So it's actually not just like there's actually kind of moves beyond the exercise.
It's not just like salsa.
Like you're actually dancing.
Yeah.
You've got gun fingers out.
You're mad. Yeah, it's banging, mate.
No,
We doing
I cannot say how much I
LMFAO,
wanna come.
sexy and I know it.
Oh.
Girl, look at that body. And you're like,
gosh.
Gosh. Like,
no, honestly, like back in the day when I was going to the gym with Zoe, we kept saying a dance class, like some kind of dance class gets your heart rate up. It
you're
gives
squatting
you
down,
that,
your legs are burning.
yeah. Oh, so okay.
Honestly, guys,
I really want to go. I just don't have a membership at that gym.
If you're not a runner and you want to like do something where you're going to move your body,
Zumba,
I would highly recommend.
Girl, look at that body. Oh, that's going to be in my head now.
I work out, and then you're going to I work out like that.
Guys, if you're listening to this on
Girl, look at that
Spotify, just
body.
load the video version.
I'll be doing a full routine at the end. Maybe if we start a Patreon or something, that can be the behind the scenes content that the people are after me leading.
So vlogging Zumba.
Honestly, when I was in there, I was like, I feel like I need to record myself.
Yeah.
Or not just
Does
myself.
anyone do that?
Well, to be fair, the instructor records it.
Oh,
Some of
fair.
the dancers.
Oh, surely you have to have consent to put that anywhere.
Well,
like
I don't
loads
think
of women.
I've not given my consent, and she's filming me.
True.
So I might try and find her account, and then I can show you some of the routines that we're cranking out on a Tuesday night.
Gosh, well,
It's like a dreary, dark Tuesday evening.
no, 100% joy, energy, vibrance, life. Zumba.
I'm a Zumba rep
It's taking
now.
me back to like wake up, shake up days at primary
Yeah,
school.
but it's like even better because you're like, I'm actually doing a routine, and I feel like
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
gonna come, guys. Next time we talk about Zumba on this podcast, it will be because I've gone, and we can give a
we'll try and
review.
record a bit as well. We can put it on the story.
No, anyways, right. Thanks, Soph. That was I enjoyed that start to this podcast.
Thanks.
What is the topic that we're discussing today?
Should I get it up, or do you want to read it out?
Yes, I will do it.
Go
So,
on.
guys, today we are we're delving back into kind of relationship territory. And we are talking today about it's not just you who is the only single person in their friendship group. Or one of.
One of.
As in you're in the minority as a single person in the friendship group. So we're going all things singleness today, guys. We're diving back into that.
Single ladies, let me hear you scream.
Oh, I bet they do single ladies in Zumba.
We haven't yet, but I'm getting quite close with the instructor, so I might put in a recommendation.
That is classic you. If you somehow ended up like changing the Zumba playlist, it's like, right, DJ Soph, you just can't. You can't.
I'm the Zumba co-host.
Okay, anyways.
Do you know, sorry, just back on the Zumba.
Oh.
It's like quite staggered of like the people on the front are like really good.
Yeah.
Middle is
Are you
like
on the front?
No, I'm in the middle at the moment, hoping to work.
Oh, really?
Hoping to work my way to the front. The back.
Do the
They
same
ain't got a
people
clue.
who go at the
They ain't
front
got a
always
clue.
go at the front?
Yeah, there's this one girl.
There's like
There's this one
positions,
girl
like-
where I'm like, sorry, you the instructor? Because the instructor will be getting it wrong and she'll be doing it right. And I'm like, I'm going to look at you actually instead. We call her purple leggings because she's got purple leggings. She always wears purple
If
leggings.
you're purple leggings and you're listening
shout out,
to this
mate.
podcast, hiya.
You slay every Tuesday.
Okay, anyways, singleness.
I'm somehow going to revert everything back to Zumba in this podcast.
just the theme of the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Singleness.
Why are we chatting about this today, Soph?
Well, we did a singleness ep a while back.
Mm-hmm.
More me talking about, what was it, 24 and never had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
25 and never had a boyfriend. We're
Yeah.
still on that train.
Actually, that's probably worth just
nearly
explaining.
nearly 26 and never had a boyfriend.
If you haven't listened to this podcast before and this is the first time, I'm Rach. I'm 20.
Yeah.
I nearly forgot how old I was. I'm 25 and I have a boyfriend. Soph is
25 and has never had a boyfriend.
speaking.
Sorry, I
Third
was thinking,
person.
I was going to say something
Soph
else.
has never had a
I'm more just thinking the time that's passed because that was 24
Yeah.
and I am turning 26
Yes.
in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So,
So you're
2 years
single.
on and we're still
Yeah.
here, which is great.
One single person, one person in a relationship. And I would say, would you say in your current setup of different friends and friendship groups, you feel in the minority being single?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my home school friendship group, only one.
How many girls are in there for context?
Like 6,
Mm-hmm.
7. Here in Brum, I have a few soldiers standing strong with me, but they are few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would say in our friendship group in Brum, there has been like a shift over the years of like, originally I would say there were more kind of single people floating around, and now,
well, I guess that's just in any circumstance, really. Isn't
yeah,
it?
true. In your friendship group from home as well. That's
Yeah.
been the case.
So
yeah.
I'd say it's just the nature of going into mid to the end of 20s is like,
more people in relationships.
yeah, I would say so. Maybe that's not for everyone, or maybe that's not in
Yeah.
everyone's context, but in our context in Brum, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, and I guess it does fluctuate kind of away from age anyway. Just like
Yeah,
I don't
you
know,
could be
sometimes just there's
in
loads
secondary
of people
school and-
in relationships, and other times there aren't. But that's the context. Right now, you find yourself single.
I guess also the difference is more and more people are also getting married.
Yes.
So where sometimes you might be in a stage of like in secondary school and lots of people are in relationships, you're like, well, this could very easily flip and everyone's single again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas when people are getting married, you're like, okay, this is not changing.
This is my new reality.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, just a bit of context for the listeners.
It's good to set the scene.
Where are we starting with this podcast, Rach?
I think we should start with how you find being single. So, like, if the It's Not Just You theme is you're the only single person in a friendship group.
Yeah.
How do you find that as an experience? Are there moments where you feel more single than others? Are there times where you're not even aware of your relationship status and you don't really care? In the moments where you are aware, how do you feel?
I think, speaking for myself, speaking personally, I wouldn't say I walk around every day feeling, oh, I'm single and everyone else is in a relationship and that's all I can think about right now. We were saying before we filmed this that I would say there are 2 moments in life where you just feel so single. If you are single, you are feeling it in these moments. Number 1, first dance at a wedding, like you're a wedding guest.
Oof.
They've done the first dance or they're doing the first dance and, you know, they're a minute in and then they go, everyone join. And it's like just couples slow dancing and it's literally just a line of single people on the periphery of a circle while you just watch all these couples dance and like rest their head on their partner's chest and you're like, nice.
And it's like,
or then you're just even, I don't know why it almost feels more sad when it's like your friend comes over like, come and dance with me and you're like, oh, this is so sad.
And I feel like to some degree even more when it's a friend who's in a relationship comes over to you like, no, I want to dance with you, and you know, it's like, oh, it is just a moment where it's like, I feel like I've been in that scenario where I've been single and someone's done that to me and I'm like, no, just go and dance with your boyfriend. Like,
I'd actually rather just go and sit on a table or something like that. Like, I'll be back in a minute when they start playing a bit of Rihanna. Do you know what I mean?
Beyonce.
then I'll be on the floor. Yeah.
Oh, that's my cue.
So that I'd say that is a moment of, yep, single. Okay.
Just hammer it home.
Which again, it's like, it's not really that deep. It's like 30 seconds of your life. But I think you just feel very aware. The single people watch all the couples dance and have a nice time. You're not allowed because you're not in a couple.
Yeah, that's true.
And also you never, I don't know why, but I've just had a vision of like a random like man coming up to you going, may I have this dance?
Oh,
and you're like,
stop.
I mean, that has never happened to me and I don't think it does happen, but you know, you see it in films and stuff. Anyway, so that's number 1. Number 2, New Year's Eve, the clock strikes 12 and everyone's having a good old snog and you just stood there just watching it all like, oh, this is nice.
Guys, last New Year's Eve, Soph actually kissed me.
I just felt so alone. No, I'm joking.
Was it on the cheek? I can't remember. But I just remember it was so funny because I mean, you can share it from your perspective, but from mine, it didn't necessarily feel like this intentional thing of like, oh, I'm gonna come kiss you. But it was like my first New Year's Eve in the relationship that I'm in now. And we were all away as friends together. And to be honest, I personally, like, I know you're saying everyone turns and start kissing. I don't know if in reality that happens depending on like how you are in your couple, but I wouldn't necessarily do that. So it wasn't like the clock struck 12 and I went and found my boyfriend, but like just out of nowhere, Soph just kissed me and it made me jump that I dropped my glass and it smashed. And it was just like the irony of like I had literally been in a relationship for like 3 weeks and it's like so new and it's kind of like, all right, New Year's, and it's like, oh, I'm kissing Soph.
Did I spoil it for you?
No, like I said, I personally am not. I don't know if I'd do that anyway. Just in terms of it's just a bit like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd kiss my boyfriend anyway in front of all my mates. But...
Also, just saying when Rachel's saying we kissed, we weren't snogging. No. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a very like quick interaction, but so many things happened at once. I literally dropped my glass and it smashed.
I think it's because I'd been having a conversation. I can't remember with who, but we've been talking about how some people just will kiss their friends. Like, not necessarily on the lips, but like
on the cheek.
You'd be more of like a, mwah, mwah. Like if you saw someone, it's like, oh, we just don't do that.
No,
And I was
we
like,
don't.
just finding it quite funny, the idea of like,
Yeah.
if I just started doing that to people.
And I think it
they're
was like we were next
oh,
to each other and it was like, oh, it's 12. And it's just, honestly, yeah. That
overcome
was funny.
with just joy about it being another
year of friendship.
Yeah. But I think the reality is it's not all, I mean, I would say in some cases it is literally the clock strikes 12 and everyone starts kissing, but it's not always like that. I think it's just the awareness of people, you know,
In
the
couples,
whole like
that's
New
what they
Year's
do.
kiss thing, and then you're kind of just like giving people hugs like
I mean, I feel like there you've basically named two scenarios that are almost like socially constructed for couples. So in that moment, it's definitely going to feel like just intense, or kind of you're going to be made aware of the fact that you're single, even if the people around you aren't engaging in it. It's just such a like deeply entrenched social construct that like slow dances happen between couples, and New Year's Eve is a time for couples to kiss, that it's like, well, I'm not in a couple.
I think it's also the element though of watching, because let's say something like Valentine's Day, if you weren't, like for me, not having someone to be my Valentine's is like, okay, cool, I don't really care. I'm probably, you know, you could just make your own plan or do whatever or do nothing.
It's just another day.
But you're not going to sit and watch a couple go on a date on Valentine's Day. Whereas in these moments, it's like you're just stood there watching.
Like you
cool.
feel like a lemon.
I can't
like,
do that.
What do I do? Yeah, 100%.
I think that's a big part of it, which I just, more than anything, I think just find quite funny.
Yeah. I would add to that just one other one, probably more generally just around weddings in general, of like, I think I've mentioned this in a podcast before, but for me, like when I, was single, I just found weddings and hen-dos. I just found all of the kind of like, I remember going to a
hen-dos are not good in terms of they are good, but I'd say that all the chat is just about,
of course,
because then someone goes, oh, you're married, oh, so how did you meet your
100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was at a hen-do, and just all of the conversation the entire day was about everyone's partner, and everyone there was married other than one other person. And then obviously the point of the day is about celebrating the couple, so there's just so much like, let's play Mr. and Mrs. Let's celebrate your love, which is beautiful, but it is just like being hammered home consistently, you're single, you're single, you're single, you're single.
Which I think I'd say leads on quite well to the next point of just conversation and being in conversation as a single person, and sometimes how that can feel difficult. Thinking about hen-dos where, yes, you've got the couple that you're celebrating, but then there's maybe other girls there who are in relationships. And I totally get it, because if you're sat there at hen-do and you're talking about weddings, and then you start reminiscing on your wedding, or someone says, oh, well, what did you do for your hen-do? And, all these things that actually I totally can see why the conversation has gone there. But when you're single, you're just like, I actually just can't contribute to this conversation.
Yeah. And I think what's so interesting about that is often like the reason people start talking about that kind of thing at hen-dos is because realistically you've got a bunch of people together who don't know each other, and the easy thing to talk about and relate on is their relationships. And I would say in general, when people speak a lot about relationships or romance, it is just because it's such an easy thing to talk about, and so much of our kind of culture and our world is based around love and romance and relationships. So it's like me and Sophie were saying earlier, when you're meeting up with people and you're hanging out with them, no matter if they're single, dating, married, divorced, I don't know, whatever stage they find themselves in romantically, some of the chat 100% is going to be about like, if you're single, so like, any guys on the scene, like, have you been dating, or what do you think about this, what do you think about that? If you're dating, so how's your relationship going, like, how long have you guys been dating now, like, what are the vibes, do you think there's a future to it? If you're married, how's your marriage going so far? First year in, like, how's it going? Like, you guys thinking of having kids, or blah, 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 blah. If you're divorced, whatever, there's all the chat around how you're feeling and what's happened there romantically. And we were just saying, like, it's such a huge topic of conversation that if you find yourself in a position where, like, you're single and actually maybe you're not that interested in dating, it actually feels like you have nothing to say or contribute.
Yeah. And I think it's actually one of the things that I would say probably puts people off being single or makes being single seem like this really unattractive, boring life stage to be in, because often you can be sat in conversations and just feel like no one's really asking me any questions, or the conversation is just not lending itself to something that I can contribute to, because if, you know, even one person's telling a story about, oh, this happened with my boyfriend, oh my gosh, like that's happened with my boyfriend and like these conversations, which I'm not saying you have to completely tap out of. I'm sure there's ways that maybe you could relate, but on the whole you're just like, oh, I don't really have anything to contribute. And then again, I think it is that thing, you just feel like a bit of a loose part or a bit of a lemon just kind of sat there like.
Yeah, like I was saying to Soph, like we've been in some scenarios recently where for some reason me and Soph have been hanging out with like other people together. And I would say generally at the moment I've been in quite like a few life stages of a lot of change going on in my life. So people are kind of directing questions towards me anyway. But I've found that like they've been asking about my relationship, like obviously like, oh, how's your boyfriend and how's this? And then often they've been in a relationship, so I reverse the question to them. And then I've just felt really like acutely aware that Soph's there. And, you know, you're interested to hear about people's relationships, right?
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of like Soph will ask and be like, oh, so how's your girlfriend and blah, or how's your boyfriend? But then I think I've just then felt quite aware, like, because you in that scenario don't have a boyfriend to talk about, you just miss out on airtime of like speaking and sharing about your life. And it's like, that's not actually okay in terms of like, there's way more to speak about or ask you about, but have almost felt quite like awkward in those scenarios of like, because the conversation's been so centered around romantic relationships, it feels almost jarring to then transition to you and go, and how's your dog? Or like, obviously not that extreme, but like, and how's you know, living with the family you live with? And it feels like this weird comparison of like, there doesn't need to be a comparison of something for you, but also like, I don't actually know how to transition in those scenarios.
Yeah. And I think then just when you're the single person in that scenario, you can just go down a whole thought tunnel of, oh my gosh, am I so boring? Is there anything interesting about my life? Or do people even care about my life? Do people care about what's going on in my world? And, you know, which is, I know it's not true, and I actually can rationalize. And when I think about it, it's like, I know that's not the case. But again, I think it's just the easy go-to topic of conversation often. And also I think then when you do have maybe something in that realm of like, oh, you went on a date, or oh, there's a guy you might be talking to or whatever, just like almost the excitement levels that you see from people, you're like, oh, okay, you're really excited about this. I've never shared anything with
like,
you.
Oh, you're suddenly texting me incessantly asking about how a date's gone, and you didn't like, do you know what I mean? Yeah,
you didn't text me like when actually, you know, it was just a normal average week in my life. And I think that's just where I don't think it's wrong at all to ask your friends, how's your relationship going, and catch up around that stuff, because I think they're really important things to talk about and to share about with people. But I don't know, I just think we're better than that. That's the only thing that people can talk about. And when you don't have that going on in your life, people are struggling to ask you a question.
Would you, like that scenario I just laid out, would you find it kind of jarring? Like, let's say we're talking about romantic relationships, and then I went, and so like, how's work? Would you find that weird? Like, would you deep it in terms of like...
No, I wouldn't care, because I think actually for me, it's like, oh, you are aware that maybe in this moment I'm feeling a bit excluded, and you're trying to bring me in on the conversation, which, you know, for the last 45 minutes I've not been able to contribute to anything. Like, I'd way rather that than like
just nothing.
A whole evening goes by and you haven't been able to, or no one's asked you anything.
Do you ever feel like people are kind of awkward or like run out of almost things to like ask you about because of you being single?
No, not always. Maybe sometimes. I think it's more, I don't think it's more they've run out, but I think it's more, particularly I'd say when it's a group. I wouldn't feel this in a one-on-one scenario, but if it was like 3 or more people hanging out, I think it's more just like you said, it's more the airtime. So when you're having the more general conversations, and if there's like a shared experience of everyone else of being married or in a relationship or dating, and that's the thing that's kind of being discussed, it can sometimes feel like, oh, I don't really feel like I've shared much about what's going on in my life because that isn't a thing that's going on in my life.
And we have a friend who like was asking pretty rude.
Oh my gosh. She was telling me that she was at work, and I think there's just like a few people at her work that are like, maybe being single was a season in their life that is quite a while. I can't think of the wording.
That they're in a relationship.
No, more just like,
Oh, they can't remember.
they
being
can't
single,
remember what it's like to be single. They've probably been married at this point for longer than they were ever single. And she was saying that they just keep, like, when she finds herself in small talk moments, they'll just ask her like, so how's your house? And she's like, my house? Like,
as in like she's single and doesn't have like a relationship to talk
yeah.
about. And
I guess where you'd maybe ask, oh, so how's your partner, or like their name, or how are the kids, or one of those questions.
So
she's getting asked, so how's
Guys,
the house?
We've got to get better at asking single people questions. Like, come on.
Come on, guys.
But also, like, I have been there where it's like sometimes in a moment. I think, like you say, so much of it is the small talk energy of like, it's such a small talk question to ask someone about their relationship. But yeah. And is there anything else that you find hard about being single?
No, I wouldn't say I find this hard.
No, but like
mildly annoying.
Yeah. No, but some people could find it hard.
Yeah. I think the whole like couples, again, I think essentially it's the whole thing of life just revolving around relationships, romance. So you're not in a relationship, so when are you getting in a relationship? And therefore times where I've had people who are married or in couples and they're just obsessed with like trying to set you up with someone else that's single who they know or is vaguely in the vicinity of your life, and they're like, oh, you and them would be great together, and you're like, no, we wouldn't. But they're just so like almost incessant on, no, but you need to be in a relationship, and so I'm going to match you up with this person who is actually just nothing like you. Oh, but you're both single, so why not just give it a try? It's like, do you know me and do you know them? Because if you did, then
it's not gonna work.
So I think that is like, I wouldn't say it's a big thing. I just, again, I think more just find it fascinating that people are
fascinating.
Well, I don't know, just even people who are in couples or in relationships themselves, it's still something that they almost want to then project onto everyone around them.
Yeah.
Any kind of insight into why that is?
No, I think honestly, like, I'm just thinking it comes back to the conversation to talk about in terms of like, obviously there could be some instances where people genuinely think two people work together and they go away and they're thinking about it and they're like, oh, if only those two got together, and they're like really for it. I think more often than not, that's not the case. They're just in a scenario, in a conversation with you. It gets to your turn to talking about relationships. There's nothing to say. So then it's like, let's set you up.
Have you ever thought
like,
about...
Again, I think it's just the small talk thing.
But I also think people like love.
Oh, yeah.
Love's amazing and it's great. And I think it's just almost...
So platonic love.
But it's almost, I think it's the vicarious, all those...
They want to live through you.
Yeah, or like the feelings and the excitement of the beginnings of a relationship where it's all new and, ooh, you don't know what's going to happen. And I guess if you've been married or in a long-term relationship, or if you're single as well and you're kind of thinking, I'm single, but there might be hope for them, so I could just kind of, again, live vicariously through their experiences. It's, like I said earlier, people just get so excited about the prospect of a person and another person being together. And
100%.
that is exciting. I'm not saying that's not exciting, but I just find it, again, fascinating. Like, wow, people really fixate on this stuff. And I mean, again, it's the plot of every film. It's the storyline of every book. It's people just love.
And then the other thing, I guess, is when friends in a friendship group are obviously in couples, and then with that comes the hanging out in couples. And like as the person who's single, that can be hard, can't it? Where you feel like, yeah, you aren't invited to something, or maybe like you're not getting to hang out in the same way as like others with their respective partners. And I think that's hard because like I do actually think there's a lot of validity in couples hanging out and like
1,000,000%.
they like journeying stuff together that, you know, let's say there's married couples and ultimately marriage is hard, and it, of course it's like really like useful for those couples to hang out. And I think also for me, if I think like when I was single and two married couples were hanging out and talking a lot about their marriages, I would just probably be there like, oh, like I'd rather not.
I'm gonna
like,
be of no help here, guys.
yeah, or like I'd rather like maybe sometimes, yeah, but also like I could hang out with the couples on like separately or the people separately. But it is just hard. I think sometimes it is just hard where you hear that there are two couples hanging out and you're like, or like a couple's holiday and you're like, oh, I'd actually quite like to be on that, but I can't because I'm not in a couple. But I think with that, sometimes it's just like having that chat with your mates and being like, because sometimes I think couples assume, why would they want to be here? And you actually might want to. And then it's like, oh, let's just chat about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think though, the reality is you're always going to gravitate and hang out with people who are in your similar life stage. Like I'll have friends that I really value because they're single, not just because of that, but part of our friendship and the way that we connect is because we have a mutual experience going on in our life where we're both single, and actually that's really helpful and healthy and good for me to have those friendships in my life. But I guess like the topic of this podcast, where you're maybe in a season of life where the majority of people around you are in couples, it can feel then there's not limited options, because obviously I would hang out with a couple. I hang out with couples all the time, but like it's not like, oh, there's loads of single people and then there's also loads of couples, and there's like almost an even spread of people who can hang out with each other when we're talking about hanging out with people in a similar life stage. So I think, I don't know, and I think it's the assumption, like you say, of sometimes couples that, oh, they wouldn't want to just come round for dinner, just them and then us as a couple, because maybe they'd find that intense or weird. And I think the majority of people who are single would be like, I don't care.
Yeah, and also like you'd rather be invited than just like, oh yeah, there's three couples hanging out and you're just like, cool. Like I actually wouldn't have minded that. It's always nice to have the option, isn't it? Like there might be one night where you're like, to be fair, I don't really fancy hanging out with three couples, cool. But like the invite's always nice.
I do also think sometimes with couples hanging out, like I think you said it earlier, it's like sometimes it just feels like a different kind of standard of hanging out. That's the only way I can put it. But it's like a couple is having another couple round, and it's like, oh, we're gonna really like cook them a nice meal and have a bottle of wine, and you know, it's a real evening. We're gonna make an evening of it. And then sometimes I feel like when you're the single person, it's like, yeah, just we could go for a coffee or something, or yeah.
That's actually so true.
I
feel like that's never spoken about.
I just feel like sometimes the single people get the below par like option of like, or like they're not getting invited round to the same level of like, we had this couple round and we cooked them this meal, and like then we had dessert, and then we had, you know, I don't know, it just feels almost like low stakes, which is like most of the time again don't really care, but sometimes I will notice like, oh, like I've never been round to your house in that way. I've like come round to your house and we've sat on the sofa and watched TV or something and had a cup of tea, but like I've not like.
I think it does also, do you know what I think one reason, like we'll wrap up in a minute, but I do think one reason about that is often like I'm thinking of myself in that situation, and like I have a lot of friends who like we're like really good mates, and I think when you're single and you're going to a couple's house, you probably know both of them quite well or one of them quite well. I think often when couples hang out, there's sometimes that energy of like you're getting to know the other's spouse, or like you're getting to know, or like the guys don't really know each other or the girls don't really know each other, so it feels way more of a like formal occasion, like we're going to put on a spread. Whereas like when you're single, there's just one person coming over and it's almost like, oh, we know them. But I think that's a great point, and I think, guys, gotta honor the single friends.
So next time I'm coming around, guys, 3-course meal.
So to all my friends listening to this, I want
I'm putting in my request.
I want 1 bottle of wine just to me. I want you to clean your house. If I see a speck out of place,
oh, funny.
You're just gonna be going around asking that question, like, but would you have done that for a couple? Or like, sorry, but is this the treatment that you gave X and Z when it came round?
Do not get me wrong, guys. I have some friends who treat me like the queen that I am.
Like,
do you know
me.
what I mean? Ooh. No, I definitely don't think, I'm not like saying that this is a common thing. You know, you just sometimes get those thoughts and you're like,
yeah,
that's interesting. But
didn't cook that for them, did you?
No. Guys, overall, I am enjoying my time of singleness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But obviously there are the days or the moments like when you're at a wedding and it's first dance where you're like, feel a bit left
on
out.
my own here. So that is why we've recorded this episode, to let you know it's not just you guys.
It is not.
So let us know like what you do at the first dance at a wedding, or what you do on New Year's Eve if you're single. Or
dance on your own.
We should definitely put that as a question box on. Like, I would love to know what people do in those scenarios.
Self-love.
Imagine like if people just have like wild.
Just go to the toilet.
Oh, if in doubt. Oh, I need a wee. That's gonna take 10 minutes.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Shout out to the single queens. Love you guys.
Get down to Zumba.
Sorry, what did I just do?
What did you just
Just
do?
did gun fingers and I was trying to go brap.
Oh.
But then
What the heck was that?
All right,
Like
bye,
a bee.
guys.
Bye.